あれ。約束1、部屋を明るくしてみよう。約束2、テレビから離れてみよう。約束3、繰り返し見たいときは一度目を休めてからにしよう。
Welcome to this look at the many pleasures of your memorable cruise aboard the Diamond Princess. You stepped aboard the Diamond Princess ready to embark on an unforgettable ocean voyage. And as crew members weighed anchor, you sailed off to new horizons and to new adventures. First order of business was to explore your floating resort. And on the Diamond Princess, exploring could take a while. This is, after all, one of the largest ships on the seven seas.
Diamond Princess is actually not just the largest ship in Princess Cruises at the moment, it's also the largest ship operating in the Pacific Ocean. We're actually 950 feet long, we're 123 feet wide at the waterline, and were 116,000 gross tons.
Take the Diamond's exceptional length, add 18 decks in height, and you have a very special ship whose name reflects her glittering beauty. To help set the mood for your voyage, the captain and his staff threw a gala party to welcome you aboard the sensational Diamond Princess. As recently as 15,000 years ago, the inside passage was a solid mass of ice. As the Earth gradually warmed, this frozen cover receded, leaving a coastline dotted with thousands of islands, which created protected routes along the north-south axis. Today, this passageway is a scenic delight. In some places, ships pass through narrows which seem to bring trees to within touching distance. Everywhere is beauty unlike anything else on Earth. With a cup of coffee or flaky croissant to start the day, you were ready to plan the pursuit of pleasure that would continue throughout your cruise. Perhaps you looked forward to a sunrise jog, or a visit to the writing room to record your thoughts. As the sun rose higher, it was time to check out the pool decks. Championship relaxation and world-class sunbathing were the challenges here. The convivial atmosphere at the lobby bar set the mood for your evening's entertainment. And sunset brought on the sparkling lights of nighttime aboard the Diamond. What was your dining pleasure? Perhaps the sinfully delicious Italian specialties at Sabatini's? And what was your choice of entertainment? The glamorous show at the Princess Theater? Your choice. Your evening of fun. Welcome to the state capital of Alaska. Juneau can be reached only by sea or air. There are no roads which connect it to the rest of the world. Juneau also has the distinction of being the largest capital city in the Americas. Despite being sparsely populated, it claims over 3,000 square miles of land. From the historical district to civic buildings, you can trace Juneau's growth from mining boomtown to seat of Alaska's state government. Downtown encompasses many of the landmarks which embody this interesting history. St. Nicholas Orthodox Church recalls the era when Alaska was a Russian possession. This charming house of worship is on the National Register of Historic Sites. Museums in Juneau catalog and chronicle the natural, cultural, and commercial heritage of which locals are justifiably proud. Native traditions are both intriguing and appealing. The ethno-cultural group most strongly linked to the area are the Tlingit Haida people. Despite recent challenges to the theory, there is strong evidence for links to the people of eastern Siberia. Of course, some people just naturally gravitate toward the freewheeling side of town. The Red Dog Saloon is a favorite with locals and visitors, all of whom come to partake of the spirit of the gold rush. Anyone exploring Juneau quickly discovers it has a personality all its own. There's no doubt the frontier spirit is alive and well. For some, adventure can be found rafting down the icy cold Mendenhall River. Others prefer to paddle a canoe to the edge of mighty Mendenhall Glacier. Still others get close to nature as they kayak across the protected waters of Auk Bay. For some, the frontier spirit comes alive as they pan for gold. It was gold, after all, that really got things going in these parts. In 1880, Dick Harris and Joe Juneau staked a claim here in what would be the beginning of the Great Alaska Gold Rush. After an exhaustive search for treasure, some prospectors enjoy the pleasures of an outdoor salmon bake. A trip to Taku Lodge combines the exhilaration of a float plane flight with the sizzling taste of fresh salmon. With glacier views and wooded surroundings, this cozy place is an ideal Alaskan hideaway. And no one argues that half the fun of Taku Lodge is getting there and back. There are so many ways to take in the beauty of the surroundings and rich diversity of wildlife. Juneau lies along the Gastineau Channel, and the region is teeming with birds, animals, fish, and whales. A scenic cruise brings this abundance into focus as part of a complex habitat. The region's rich biodiversity is on display at the Gastineau Hatchery. Alaska is famous for the amazing ritual of salmon fighting their way upstream to spawn. At Gastineau Hatchery, the cycle of life begins early in the season with incubating salmon eggs and follows the process through the spawning season between late June and September. The hatchery manages to produce more than 160 million salmon a year. It's inevitable that some of these fighting fish be targeted by sportsmen, and Juneau is a popular place for fishermen of all abilities to try their luck. Wildlife isn't the only natural attraction around here. The botanical bounty is also impressive. A hike through old-growth forest can awaken appreciation for this remarkable ecosystem. Douglas Island is one favorite place for such outings, but the hills and islands around Juneau are full of idyllic natural retreats. There are also gardens which display and propagate both native and exotic species. Green Angel Gardens is a wooded wonderland. Glacier Gardens proves that living in the shadow of an ice field doesn't have to limit your floral creativity. For an unforgettable look at nature's power, the journey to Mendenhall Glacier is unmatched. Landing on the sparkling ice for a close look at this awesome beauty is an amazing adventure.
Now, if you look down on the side, you see all looks like dirt and stuff on it. This is actually caused by erosion. In fact, if you guys were just here a little over a month ago, you would not be standing where you are right now. In fact, all of you would be standing about here or out farther, because this ice extended out for 6 more feet. We're also moving down the valley right now to about 2 feet a day. Big rocks will fall into cracks like this. When these cracks close up, anything in it is ground up into a powder. And this looks like sand over here. You can see on the top we've been working on. It's actually ground up boulders.
The challenge of nature is one that some people just can't resist. This is surely one of the most scenic places to get an introduction to glacier hiking. Some people choose to visit Mendenhall Glacier without going airborne. A visitor center provides information and a lofty observation point. Another scenic gem is the view of Mendenhall Glacier from the little chapel by the lake. Mendenhall, along with Herbert, Taku, and Eagle glaciers, forms the Juneau ice field. The city is protected from this enormous flow of ice by the Gastineau Channel, Mount Juneau, and Mount Roberts. This peak provides an ideal viewpoint from which to take in the splendid setting of the city. It's also a great place to hike or learn more about the special heritage of the area. Juneau might have faded into obscurity when the mining concerns played out, were it not for it being named territorial capital of Alaska. Today, both mining and government remain as the cornerstones of Juneau's heritage. Another day of relaxing pursuits awaited as the Diamond cruised on to another colorful port of call. A cruise is the ideal time to treat yourself to some pampered pleasure, to revitalize body and spirit. And the Lotus Spa was just the place to discover the many ways to indulge. If you felt the outside world calling, then the Internet Cafe was your connection. As you enjoyed the myriad activities offered on the Diamond, an expert staff worked behind the scenes to keep the vessel safe, secure, and at peak performance. Overseeing the technical aspects of the cruise was the chief engineer. His domain is the control room, and from here he communicates with officers on the bridge and technicians in the engine room.
In the engine control room, we have integrated computer system that really monitors pretty much everything in the ship. The navigation bridge and the engine control room are in direct communications all the time. All this is monitored from in here. And between them, the two of them really run the operation of the ship 24 hours a day. We have 4 diesel generators driving the shaft, but we also have this added extra, a huge power pack which takes up no room at all. We have a gas turbine. It's at the base of the funnel. We use this to give us extra speed when required. All this power together, and we do about 22 knots flat out. So our maximum cruising speed really is about 21 and a half.
The expertise of the chief engineer and his staff meant smooth sailing and a carefree cruise for you. Mountains seem to dominate many of Alaska's cities, and Skagway is another settlement nestled in the protective arms of majestic peaks. Skagway's charm is linked to its raucous past. When the original Indian fishing village was overrun with prospectors, idyllic calm gave way to rowdy saloons and lawless abandon. Today you can hear the echoes of those gold rush days in the tinkle of a player piano or the whistle of the White Pass train. Take a carriage ride, relax in an old-fashioned streetcar, or stroll along Main Street, and with a little imagination, you can transport yourself back to the days of '98. The treasure seekers who came to Skagway had a hard decision. They could try to get to the gold fields via the Chilkoot Trail or over the White Pass. Now, the Chilkoot was an easier route, but it took longer. The White Pass was more direct, but the treacherous mountain route claimed hundreds of lives. When the White Pass Railroad was completed, it eased the way over the mountains. But the supply of gold soon dwindled, making the whole enterprise of questionable value. What no one can deny is the beauty of the scenic panoramas that modern travelers enjoy as they follow the route of the White Pass through the mountains. Skagway's history is a colorful one. It's peopled with the likes of the notorious bandit Soapy Smith and brave Molly Walsh, who ran a grub tent for gold-crazed prospectors.
Right at the top of the stairs, here lies buried the outlaw Soapy Smith. The end of the story is told by a giant granite monument right in the center of the cemetery. That's the man who shot Soapy Smith.
The city was founded by William Moore, who foolishly thought he could control the rush of gold seekers and profit from their arrival. The flood of settlers not only overwhelmed his plans, but also added insult to injury by changing the name of the town from Mooresville to Skagway. The name Skagway derives from an Indian word meaning home of the north wind. Residents who brave the location year-round can attest to the accuracy of the name. But in the summer, they welcome visitors to their town to enjoy the flavor of Skagway's raucous past.
around this nice warm campfire for the miners to come back from the Klondike, and they stole all their stories and wrote them down as their own. Now right over there on your right, if you folks will just shimmy on over that way, just a little bit, because I'm going to give a little eyeball. I get my hands on a dog again. I'm gonna hang on to it till like that.
While visitors can participate in a reenactment of Gold Rush days, local residents often find themselves living the lifestyles of the past. The town itself is a picture-perfect look at Gold Rush days. The surrounding mountains and glaciers are timeless tributes to nature's awesome power. They can be explored in a number of ways: on horseback, by bicycle, on foot, or from the thrilling perspective from above. Skagway's nearest neighbor is Haines. They're separated by the sparkling Lynn Fjord. Haines enjoys a famously beautiful setting and is surrounded by mighty glaciers, serene lakes, and rushing rivers. The picturesque charm of Skagway and the surrounding countryside are unmatched anywhere in Alaska. The ways in which you could amuse yourself on board the Diamond were seemingly limitless. Physical challenges awaited on the sunny decks high above the sea. What better way to soothe sore muscles than with a relaxing soak in the jacuzzi? When you were ready for a nibble, the treats were waiting. Afternoon tea was an elegant affair, while the staff at the Horizon Court were always ready with a tempting taste or two. A quiet drink with friends, a sunset stroll on deck, and the scene was set for another evening-long party. Bright lights and high spirits in the casino were another of the appealing options for your nighttime revelries. All this and more ports and pleasures still to come. While the towns and villages of Alaska are rich with history and adventure, the heart of Alaska is the scenic beauty that envelops everyone who sees it. Lying south of Juneau is a serene bay which leads to Tracy and Endicott Arms. The icy waters are fed by North and South Sawyer glaciers and North and South Dawes glaciers. The imposing walls of the Arms encompass some of the area's most abundant wildlife and spectacular glaciers. Sunrise brought the opportunity for more adventures ashore and more discoveries on board. A scenically inspired workout, a quick sweep through the boutiques, a get-together with newfound friends, or just a quiet date with a good book and a deck chair. Once again, you could pick your pleasure. Nowhere were your choices more diverse than with your dining delights. The elegant Sterling and Vivaldi dining rooms. And superb Sabatinis were just some of the restaurants you could enjoy. Overseeing this gourmet extravaganza was the executive chef. It was his job to ensure that every delicious meal and sinfully rich dessert celebrated its culinary inspiration.
Yes, on the Diamond Princess we have a lot of dining choice. Sabatini is the top class of the restaurant in Italy. Here we get the name of Sabatini and we try to get the same food of the Sabatini in Florence. Plus we add the other dining choice we have on board. Santa Fe is typical Mexican. And then we have a Pacific Moon, is a Asian restaurant. We have sushi. And then we cook almost à la minute, like the Fire restaurant, no? So we get, for example, Vivaldi, when it's full, is 230 people. So we cook maybe for 20, for 30, for 50, depend of the time. And average production a day is for 3,000 people. And it's all a matter of organization. If everyone, you have to combine together to fill up the menu.
His staff includes experts in every field. And their skills range from delicate artistry to bold strokes of creation. This is a true dream team of fine dining. Although Alaska was next to the last state to enter the Union, it ranks first in many ways. First in size, first in natural resources, and first in national parks. And Ketchikan is known as the first city of Alaska. In Ketchikan, you find water everywhere. One of the city's most charming areas is Creek Street. Once these buildings were home to the Red Light District. Now they house shops and restaurants. Ketchikan's other nickname is Rain Capital of North America. Locals will tell you the rainfall is measured in feet, not inches. And it surprises most visitors to find that there's a rainforest so close to the Arctic Circle. Just as you might associate rainforests with the tropics, you probably think of fjords as Scandinavian. But Ketchikan is a surprise here too. The beauty and splendor of Alaska's fjords unfold beneath you from the exciting perspective of a seaplane. Misty Fjord is a national monument. Its 2.2 million acres were set aside for protection in 1978. The deep fjords and sheer cliffs are accessible only by float plane or by boat. The name Ketchikan is from the Tlingit language. Depending on the interpreter, it can mean thundering wings of eagles or Salmon Creek that flows through town. Because Tlingit is not a written language, variations in English translations are rampant. What is certain is that salmon attracted both native and foreign settlers. At one time, this was salmon capital of the world. And those days are brought to life by the historic Libby, McNeil, and Libby Cannery. Built in 1913, the site carried on a thriving operation until 1959. It still provides insights into a time when Ketchikan hummed with salmon canneries working day and night.
This is the retort where the cans of salmon were cooked, and you can see inside. And the reels come down. And then I guess we grab one of these and you pull the cans of salmon out like this, and of course they would be hot coming out. Once they're out, they'd be cooled in a bath of water and then taken out to the cooling shed area where they'd sit, and then they would go upstairs to be labeled.
After the cans were cooked and cooled, they would go through rosing, get their labelies on, and be put in racks and go out to the ships.
When American fishermen appeared on the scene in the 1880s, the Tlingit Indians had been harvesting salmon for countless generations. A favorite summer campsite was at the spot where Totem Bight State Park was established. The park's most famous attraction is the replica of a clan house. It also has a wonderful collection of totem poles, some Tlingit, some Haida. Native heritage is also preserved and celebrated at Saxman Village. Saxman is reputed to have the largest collection of totems in the world. They were collected from abandoned villages during the 1930s, and all have fascinating histories. If the water shapes the lives of those who live in Ketchikan, it also provides a range of vacation fun for those who visit here. Canoeing can take you gliding through the still waters of an icy lake. For more strenuous fun, kayaking is a way to get around town and get some exercise. To enjoy the watery beauty of Ketchikan without having to exert oneself, a cruise along the scenic waterfront is unbeatable. For a bit more excitement, a jet boat can take the adventurous for some up-close exploration of the pristine wilderness. For those who like to get close to nature, Ketchikan is a sporting paradise. Fishermen go in search of salmon and halibut. Cyclists take in the beauty of waterfront paths. And hikers can explore the wooded walkways of the rainforest. A limited number of permits are also issued for the Annan Wildlife Observatory. This is a premier spot for seeing bears who come to fish for salmon in the rushing streams. Salmon, it seems, has been the lure for all life forms in the region. The spectacular abundance of nature provides a dizzying array of pleasure in the first city of Alaska. The appeal of cruising has many facets. For some, it's the feel of salt spray and sea air as the ship slices through the ocean. For others, it's the chance to try new activities and give in to indulgence. Still others become entranced with the hypnotic beauty of the waves. It takes a special sensibility to choose a life at sea, and the spell of that allure touches everyone on board. Command of a vessel like the Diamond Princess is a sought-for privilege, an awesome responsibility. On the bridge, this community at sea is cared for by skilled officers with unequaled seagoing expertise.
We have 4 people on the bridge all the time. We always have a pair of eyes looking forward, 2 officers, 1 senior, 1 junior, and 2 seamen. The officers basically drive the ship while it's at sea. It would not operate properly without a good crew here on board the ship. I have to say that the crew are the reason for the success of Diamond Princess. They're the ones that get us to the position we're in today as the top ship, really, in the cruising industry, as far as I'm concerned.
There's a constant flow of new and improved technical capabilities, all of which add to the safety and security you now enjoy while at sea. These join time-honored traditions and skills in the hands of the captain and his officers on the bridge. The sights and sounds of Victoria evoke the heritage and traditions of England as nowhere else in Canada. It was chosen as the capital of British Columbia in 1868 during the reign of Queen Victoria. A bit of the Brit delights visitors at every turn, whether it's a classic double-decker bus, a game of lawn bowling, a replica of Anne Hathaway's cottage, or that most delicious of English treats, high tea. Downtown Victoria is a delight. The meeting place here is the Empress Hotel. This ivy-covered landmark is one of the best-known sights of the city. You can stroll along the quaint streets of Victoria, or see the sights from a horse-drawn carriage. See colorful neighborhoods like Chinatown, an Antique Row, and pass by Parliament and other historic buildings along Wharf Street. The attractive waterfront of Victoria invites a little urban relaxation. From this pretty waterfront, excursions set off in search of local wildlife. Whale watching is a favorite pastime during the summer months, as these waters are home to several varieties of the marvelous mammals. Don't be surprised if in passing you see another kind of local attraction, a wild ride through the streets and across the harbor in an amphibious vehicle. Part of Victoria's British character comes from its gardens. The streets of the city are decorated with color, and Victoria is home to Bouchard Gardens, one of the most spectacular botanical displays in North America. It only makes sense that a city known for its flowers and gardens should provide a haven for butterflies, and you'll find just that at Butterfly World. The conditions that make for great botanical displays also result in a microclimate that supports viticulture. The wines of Cowichan Valley are a surprising find. Closer to city center is East Souk Park, a stunning urban oasis that combines natural parkland and ancient petroglyphs. If Victoria brings to mind images of England with its captivating gardens, it also has its own castle, Craigdarroch. This 19th century showplace is full of lovely period furnishings, art, and stained glass windows. If you're in Victoria as evening falls, a glittering electric light display is on view at Parliament. The spirit of England will always be found in the charm of Victoria. So, did you have time to discover every nook and cranny of the Diamond Princess? Did you play to your heart's content? Take to the decks to revel in the sensations of the sea? Find a lounge to match your every mood? Is there a sun-splashed swim in your memory bank? A festive cascade of sparkling champagne? The sound and light fantasy at sizzling Skywalker's disco? Of course, if you missed any of these pleasures, the Diamond Princess is waiting to welcome you back. Consistently found on lists of America's most livable cities, Seattle is popular with both residents and those who are only visiting. Seattle's geographic location is superb, ringed by mountains and hugging the shoreline of Elliott Bay on Puget Sound. It's this natural beauty that sets the city apart. The most famous landmark of downtown Seattle is the Space Needle. Built as part of the 1962 World's Fair, its silhouette has defined the skyline ever since. The Needle also provides the perfect vantage point for taking in views of the city. The original settlement of Seattle was located at what is now Pioneer Square. Locals take great pride in their heritage, so this Victorian neighborhood has been restored and preserved to great effect. Cafes, restaurants, boutiques, and art galleries now find a home in this historic quarter. A popular idiom was born here. When lumberjacks used to cut the lumber found in these hills, they would send it skidding down a nearby street to the sawmill. It was known as Skid Road, from which we derived the term Skid Row. Rivaling Pioneer Square for fun and vitality is Pike Place Market. Founded in 1907, it now attracts street vendors and performers who make the sale of produce, fish, and flowers more lively. You don't have to venture very far outside of the city center to discover the scenic beauty for which Seattle is renowned. At the University of Washington, there are acres of lakeside gardens, creating a tranquil oasis in an urban environment. After World War II, Seattle's economy was a one-industry wonder, and that industry was aviation. This legacy is wonderfully displayed at the Museum of Flight. the 1980s, Seattle's economy diversified, with this becoming a headquarters for cyberspace. As befits a thriving city with close ties to Pacific Rim trade, Seattle's International District is a showcase of cosmopolitan diversity. Other interests also flourished, and Seattle is home to both Starbucks Coffee and the Red Hook Brewery. A hometown brew might be the perfect accompaniment to the delicious Northwest salmon found in surrounding rivers and streams. A series of locks and canals helps the fish fight their way to traditional spawning grounds. You can never go wrong with discovering the environs of this exceptional city. In every direction, there are pleasures to delight the senses. The waterfront of Seattle is a busy link between the lower 48, Alaska, and Canada. It's from here that many a dreamer has set off to explore. You have treasured memories of your ocean voyage, and we look forward to seeing you again on board the sparkling Diamond Princess.
Ten 10,000 years ago, the huge ice masses which covered North America began to recede northward. As they withdrew, mountains were formed, rivers carved, and lakes left behind. Today, more than 10% of Earth's landmass is covered by glacial ice. Antarctica is the largest glacial mass, comprising almost 5 million square miles. Alaska ranks 7th with 20,000 square miles, and the continental U.S. ranks 15 with a mere 200 square miles. creation of a glacier begins with the delicate formation of a snowflake. When snow falls to Earth, flakes join together into grains of ice with bubbles of air trapped inside. As the weight of snow increases, the icy clumps form large, solid fields of ice. An increase in pressure from the weight of the ice forces out the trapped air bubbles, turning airy white snow into airless blue ice. Ice molecules absorb all the colors except blue, which is reflected back and perceived by the human eye. An ice field continues to grow as additional snowfall turns into ice crystals. When it gets to a depth of approximately 60 feet, the ice mass begins to move. A glacier is an ice field in motion. As it moves, it crushes everything in its path, from pebbles to boulders. As rocks get carried along, they are ground finer and finer until they're the consistency of flour. This rock flour is carried away by the meltwater and turns the seawater a gray-brown color. When two glaciers meet and form a larger flow, the rocks carried along their connective sides become a medial moraine, a line of crushed earth down the center of a newly enlarged glacier. Rocks and boulders left at the glacier's edge, or snout, are also called moraines. Worthington Glacier provides an excellent illustration of this rock debris. Even in the flow which breaks from the edge of an ice shelf, you'll see evidence of the glacier's ability to, literally, move mountains. There are three types of glaciers: mountain or alpine, ice cap, and ice sheet. Mountain glaciers begin in snow-locked fields located, appropriately enough, atop mountains. Repeated snowfall and freezing temperatures allow the snow and ice to reach the depth necessary to start the flow of the ice field. It moves downward through valleys until reaching the snow line, where it melts during summer months. Mountain glaciers can be miles long and are subject to avalanches. The largest glacier in Alaska is Malaspina. Named for an Italian explorer, it covers over 850 square miles. Another giant is Hubbard Glacier. This is an international glacier. Its 80-mile length backs it up into Canada. Ships only approach to within about a quarter mile, as the glacier often calves enormous icebergs. Hubbard made headlines in 1986 when it advanced so far that it cut off Russell Fjord, creating a freshwater lake. Devastating to wildlife, by summer's end, the glacier had once again retreated far enough to open passage to the fjord. This ebb and flow is characteristic of Hubbard, which has had 10 significant advances and retreats since the last ice age. An excellent place to see a variety of glaciers is College Fjord. This unique spot has more than 196 glaciers flowing into a fjord that ultimately empties into Prince William Sound. In 1897, an expedition of scientists came to this region. They represented Ivy League schools, and they named the glaciers of College Fjord after their respective alma maters. Harvard Glacier at the head of the fjord is the largest. Each of the glaciers is advancing or retreating at a different pace, making for unpredictable sightseeing. Most glaciers are receding. Although an exception is Taku. It's part of the Juneau ice field, which also gives rise to the mighty Mendenhall Glacier. Mendenhall is an example of a valley glacier. If the weather is cold enough, the glacier doesn't melt, but instead flows out over level ground. Valley glaciers are one of 3 types of alpine glaciers. Another is hanging glaciers, so called because the ice flow is trapped on the side of a mountain. Rainbow Glacier outside Haines is a famous example of a hanging glacier. The third kind of alpine glacier is a tidewater glacier. This is the most spectacular to see. And tidewater glaciers exist only in Alaska, Chile, and Scandinavia. Columbia Glacier is one of Alaska's most magnificent tidewater glaciers. Where a tidewater glacier meets the sea, it forms an ice shelf. When sections of the shelf break off, the glacier is said to be calving, and the floating sections are called icebergs. Scientists expect Columbia Glacier to retreat over 20 miles in the next half-century, creating a deep fjord. One 100 miles northwest of Juneau is Glacier Bay National Park. Established in 1925, it has an area of 4,375 square miles. A post-glacial forest has taken root where once there were only rocky moraines. More than 40 glaciers descend from 2 parallel mountain ranges. St. Elias in the east and Fairweather in the west. Muir Glacier, approximately 2 miles wide, is one of the most active. When Captain George Vancouver sailed into these waters in 1794, Icy Strait was blocked with ice, and Glacier Bay didn't even exist. Its area was covered by glaciers. However, these glaciers are being wrested from the frigid arms of the last ice age and are among the most rapidly retreating in Alaska. Less than 100 years after George Vancouver sailed into these waters, John Muir arrived to find that a 48-mile-long bay had been created by the receding glaciers. This level of retreat is unknown anywhere else. It makes for active calving and great sightseeing. Because the bay has a fragile ecological balance, no more than 2 ships are ever allowed in at one time. This rule provides the calm serenity which marks a visit to Glacier Bay. An extraordinary variety of wildlife is nourished by the surrounding icy water and hemlock forests, which are the natural legacy of glacial retreat. Whale species found in these frigid waters include mink, orca, and humpback. Harbor seals and sea lions make themselves at home on ice floes and harbor buoys. Bird life is abundant, from the incredible variety of seabirds to our national symbol, the bald eagle. Bear species include brown, black, Kodiak, and the rare Arctic blue. All of these animals exist thanks to an ecosystem created by retreating glaciers. Winter, with its cold temperatures, is a slow time for glacial movement. But with the warm winds and summer sunshine, icy activity speeds up. Some northern Alaska glaciers move as little as 6 inches a year. But others, with the advent of summer heat, race along at up to 100 feet per day. The thicker the glacier, the faster it moves. Increased weight means increased pressure, which in turn leads to increased temperature at the bottom of the glacier. As meltwater forms, the glacier slides along on a layer of liquid. A glacier moves quickest toward its center and more slowly towards its sides. As the ice moves, it thins and cracks, causing crevasses. Some of these are small enough to step over. Others form deadly traps for unsuspecting mountain climbers. Glaciers create magnificent landscapes as they flow over the terrain. From their beginnings on mountaintops, they shape the earth as they make their way toward the sea. Sharp peaks indicate that most of the mountain has been carried away by ice. Waterfalls cascade where crevasses once scarred the mountainside. Smooth, round valley floors show where a glacier flowed out over more even terrain. The word fjord is Scandinavian, and most of us associate them with Norway's stunningly scenic western coastline. But Alaska has its own lovely fjords that rival their Norwegian counterparts for scenic appeal. Near Seward are the Kenai Fjords, named for the peninsula on which they're found. And just outside Ketchikan is a magnificent national monument, Misty Fjords. Fjords are prehistoric relics of ancient glacial activity. They were formed when glaciers gouged out a valley which at one time was below sea level. Later, when the ice melted, the glacier receded and sea level rose, the valleys were flooded. The lakes that were formed are beautiful, blue, crystal-clear remnants of the Ice Age. Misty Fjords encompasses an immense 2.3 million acres. It was established in 1978 and is the second largest wilderness area in the National Forest System. Approaching by sea, the original path of a glacier is marked by a widening valley path. Flying over these fjords is one of the best ways to enjoy the spectacular natural beauty of Alaska. There are many ways to experience the grandeur of the glaciers. Flight seeing from an airplane puts their immensity in perspective. A helicopter flight allows you to land on the surface of the glacier and learn about the ice formation from a knowledgeable guide. A few of Alaska's icy giants can be reached by car. Exit Glacier is one of these vehicle-accessible landmarks, as is Portage Glacier, Alaska's most visited attraction. Portage stopped its forward advance in 1893, and its retreat has created a 3-mile-long lake. You can walk right up to mighty Mendenhall Glacier, paddle a canoe to Davidson Glacier, and hike to Lawton Glacier. And of course, you can marvel at the beauty of glaciers as you cruise alongside them. Columbia, La Perouse, Sawyer, and Hubbard glaciers are all visited by cruise ships. From the comfort of your ship, from an up-close and personal vantage point, or from cloud-strewn heights, Alaska's glaciers are Ice Age reminders of nature's glory.